And because we're going to do this with a podcast, we have to say...
Hello, my name is Dana, and I am the CEO of Mind Performance Health.
That's it. I've stepped down from the job role.
Here with our guest, Michael Pritchett.
And I've stepped down from the job role. You can take that. That's okay. You can deal with all the stresses.
I know how to run a business here.
Yes, it's all you're doing here on. But we're back for another episode, and this is actually the first one I'm sitting down just talking with you.
First one ever.
Very scary. Very
it is.
scary.
I'm scared.
We'll see where it goes. But Dana, what have you been up to? Talk to me. Bikini competitor.
What I've been up to? Training, getting my macros in. Now that we're using MyFitnessPal, which has been pretty good.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it. It doesn't feel like I'm on prep, to be honest. But I am. I'm doing everything right. But like it's just flexible. It's good.
Cool.
But yeah.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Sounds like a competitor's life, just enjoying life, hitting macros and food and such. But this is going to be one of the episodes we're going to continue here on as well, which is basically where me and you are going to talk about bikini competition specifically, which is exciting because that's what you do. And I don't do it, but I help with it, which is cool. So we're going to dive into deep topics of that. But it is, you've been... Well, usually we had more structured meal plans over the time, every time we compete and whatnot. So this is something different where you're doing that. But your nutrition literacy is pretty cool to do it. And you're in, well, you still got a bit of amount of food, but we have peeled some away as we're cutting for IFBB Pro League now.
Yes.
For those that don't know, Dana's done ICN a few times, and now we're going into IFBB Pro League, and we're about 21 weeks out from that. So we've started... A little bit of a longer cut to peak earlier, but the food is coming down, so Angry Dana will be coming out soon.
Not angry, I just forget where I park my car. Even if I park it out front, I'll walk around this whole block and I'm like, where's my car?
Yeah, you get very forgetful, so we've got to limit that as much as we can. That's why we started longer.
Yeah.
But today what me and you are going to talk about is managing expectations of bikini competition, because I think it's very important to set that up from the start. You have experience with that. I've got experience with that as well. And that's what we're going to talk on today, because I think it'd be valuable for competitors or those wishing to compete to hear. Because it's, like I said, something that should be one of the first steps set up before any competition, really. So that's what we're going to cover on today. And with that, what we're going to start off with, what are the expectations that you think that should be set up?
Expectations when competing, I think it comes down to the individual person. So we have people coming in that want to compete because they just want a challenge, they want to experience what it's like, they want to just step on stage, see how far they can push their body, which is fine, that's cool. We have people who also come in who go, I want to win, I want to podium finish, I want to do this, like, for the long run. So I guess it just depends on the individual person. Yeah,
and that's a question that coaches should ask is, what do you want out of the experience? And that's one that I've asked more and more over the years is, what do you want out of it? Because there is a different expectation, like you covered, if you want to get a pro card, to if you want to get an overall finish at a state national show, if you want to get a podium finish at a regional show, or just do it for the experience of competing. There's a different expectation that needs to be set up for each. Obviously, and there's different requirements that need to be made. So it is one of the most important things to set up. And I'd say as well, if that's not set up properly, that's where competitors can get let down at the end. Yeah. You know what I mean? And that's how expectations work. If you don't meet them, sometimes you get let down by them. So it's important to set it up. Not only the coach to set it up, but also for you to be aware for them as the competitor. Yeah. And manage it as going forward. And also, too, we get, like, sometimes we have clients that never really trained before, strength trained specifically, or done anything aesthetic style kind of training, body composition style of training. They might have done some classes or something throughout the years. And then they, because of social media, they see it, they think they can jump into a 12-week program.
It's very different.
Yeah.
Very different.
And sometimes it can happen, though. Like, you might just get someone that has the genetics and they can do it and be fantastic. But sometimes it's not the case. So how do you manage that?
As a coach or as a competitor? As a coach, well, obviously just doing that sit down with the competitor and being like, okay, that's your expectation, but this is what you've been doing. Here are the expectations that you need to hit. And then you kind of run them through like what your plan is for them. So they kind of know and, they understand the expectations, and explaining to them that, a lot of competitors have been doing this for like a long time. And then also going into genetics, explaining that as well, and kind of what they look for in the bikini class. Yeah,
that's right. I add there too, and some markers. Obviously, the look we need to for different classes in physique competition. There's a different look that we're looking for. Obviously, bikini, more X-frame, 3D glutes, shoulders sticking out, small waist. And then also there are markers that you can use with body tape to find out where you're starting for, ratios, body fat percentage, skin folds. You can set expectations up with as well to help manage that better. And I mean, at the end of the day, you touched on it there, like you competed at a young age.
Yeah.
Like you came with myself and we jumped, it was 16, right? You were
16, yeah.
Yeah, but how you were like, when you first sat down with me too, you're like, yep, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And it was a young age, right? But you had all the values and behaviors there because you were training since what age?
Oh, in my garage since like 12, 13, and then in an actual gym 14, 15.
Yeah. And you were quite committed to your training. Like I said, the behaviors and values were all there. And then, we did our competition. You did quite well. But you already presented everything.
Yeah, no, exactly.
To do it, to get the experience out. And same with myself. Like for me, I was strength training the same age, like 13, 14. But then I didn't compete till I was like 27 or something. So I had all those years under my belt. And I've competed a few times now. But, the work was done for 15 years before jumping on.
Yeah.
So it's important to get that groundwork, I believe, as well.
I was going to say as well, with the sit down, I remember it when I was 16 and I first sat down with you. I feel like you kind of set those expectations really well. And also you asked the right questions, like just to see like what I had been doing previously and just making sure I wasn't just some chick that walked in and saw some girl on Instagram. Because there's a lot that goes into like prepping and competing that, you don't see. So just like scrolling on Instagram, you see a girl, oh, she looks great, I want to look like that. There's so much that goes into it that no one really like talks about, I feel like, a lot of the time.
Yeah, not unless you're in it, then you understand what's the requirements that you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Because like you touched on, social media, scroll through and see the podium finishes, and like we know it's a highlight reel, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done with yourself, identity-wise, value-wise, and sacrifice too to make it happen.
Yeah, 100%.
And sometimes people don't know what's expected of them as well to make it happen. So it's very important to set that up. And look, that comes from experience too. I believe when I first started, like I was training competitors even before I had my Cert 3 and Cert 4 years ago. And I've gotten way better at managing expectations because I believe back then I didn't manage them as good as I could have, right? So it's experience over time as well as you go through in the game, to be aware of what you want to get out of it and what's required to do so. So if you're starting out, it's very important to, you've got a goal, it's fantastic. And I think it's a great, like physique competition is a great goal, especially if you enjoy training, changing your body to see ultimately how far you can go and keep you accountable to that process. It's competition as well. So if you're competitive, it's a great game to get into. Like for myself, I'm competitive and like to do it obviously as best as you can, challenging yourself. But it is also in saying that important that you get off to the best start and go, okay, this is what I want out of it. Like I touched on, is it for the experience? Like we have clients that go, yeah, the first one, I want for the experience to see where I stand.
Yeah.
And then goal is to always improve from that point.
Yeah.
Whereas some go, look, I want a top 3 finish.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, well, that's going to be a different expectation because let's face it, how competitive is bikini?
Oh my
you
goodness.
Go to these shows.
Like I'm scared. I'm so scared. But insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, it's my favorite class. I really enjoy because I think it is the most competitive class these days. Heaps of competitors and just the judging of bikinis, like...
It's such a gray area as well. It could be something so small like, oh, you know what? That girl's bikini color matches her better.
Yeah.
She's going to get the first. Something so small. Like, so when we talk about like bikini and competing, there's so many like little minuscule details and everything that it just you don't talk about.
Yeah.
You know?
And it is all those little details. And it's changing too. Like
Yeah.
it does change. But that's why I like it, because I think it's just a super competitive class.
Yeah.
And it can bring out your best as well. But going into it, you got to have like the experience really set down on what you want to get out of it. And as a coach, if that's what's set, manage that experience and check in with it.
And I was going to say, like, as a client looking to compete or even as a competitor, you know, when you first sit down with your coach and set those expectations, if you're someone that goes, oh, I want it for the experience, you need to be very like kind of very clear with your coach, because along the way that could change. Your like as a competitor or as a client, that expectation could shift. So you just need to tell your coach, oh, you know what, I'm looking to get a top 3 finish, and that would just be a conversation between you and your coach.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, what was your expectation? Like, I know when we sat down, but it'd be good for the audience to hear as well with your first one.
So basically, I was 11 when I saw my first like bikini girl. It was Ashley Kaltwasser. I'm going to say it on here. I love Ashley Kaltwasser. But she was the first bikini girl I'd ever seen. And I had that image. I still have it very clear in my head at age 11, seeing that. And I knew, okay, one day when I'm older, I want to look like that. I want to do what she does. But obviously, again, it was kind of just more like a learning experience for the first one. So I came in being like, you know, I just want another challenge for myself. But deep down, I knew, I'm like, okay, I want to do this for the long run. Especially after doing the first show, I just fell in love, to be honest. I fell in love with competing. I like the whole journey of just prepping. I like the routine because it's more like a lifestyle. Yeah, it's very different. Keeps you like grounded.
You feel better when you're dedicated and that to it as well, right? That's likewise why I do it as well. So and two, I think that's something to manage expectations with as well, is comparing your others. Like you did touch on, all right, I saw Ashley, I wanted to be like her. But that happens a lot too, where we get clients who go, I want to look like this. Yeah. Now that's important too. Like everyone has different genetics that we want to maximize. That's the way I look at it. It's a game of maximizing genetics, but we all have a ceiling with genetics as well. Unfortunately, until something comes out that changes that. But it's important to also realize now where your genetics can go and maximize that as well. Yeah. But you take it on. You're competitive. I feel like you do train hard. You tick the boxes and that. Pull the trigger when you got to pull the trigger as well. But that was always set up from the start. Like I knew that from when we first sat down. You had the behaviors there to do it, right? And that's the other thing. Like behaviors of an athlete. Let's talk of that, because that's an expectation that as coaches we have on athletes as well, right? And if it's not there, like we have some clients that come in, obviously we've got our studio here, and they may originally sit down and go, cool, I want to do competition, but then there's behaviors we need to help build up to make sure they can get the most out of it, number one. Yeah. And we maximize that experience. What are the behaviors that we need to build up? What's an expectation that we have as coaches on the athletes that we need to see to make it happen? So
I guess your simple one would be, are they able to get their training in? Are they doing like however many days? Are they getting all their training in? Are they actually able to push in the gym, not just do whatever? Are they following the nutrition plan to the T? That's so important, and it is annoying as a coach. You're trying to help this client, and they just don't want to follow the plan. So again, setting that expectation for them. If you're not going to follow the plan, you're not going to get the best result possible. Just little things as well. We do recommend like supplements that will help if they're taking their supplements. Another marker which I like using, because for some reason it's so hard for everyone to drink water. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that first test. Before I used to test, okay, can they follow the nutrition plan? But if I go to one of my clients and I go, okay, until I see you next, I want to see you drink 2.5 liters of water. I see them the week after. I go, have you had your 2.5 liters of water every single day? you'll either get a yes, a no, or, oh, I tried.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that kind of, as a coach in your head, you kind of know where they sit, know where you need to improve. It's kind of like baby steps for those clients.
Yes.
And then you get some that come in and they're just bang on with everything. If anything, they're like up my ass being like, oh, like, can I do this? Can I do this? Like, they'll message you constantly, be like, am I allowed, like the smallest things, am I allowed to have this salt?
Yes.
Like, that's when you know, okay, that is a switched on client.
Yeah, correct. Well, I agree. And I'll add to that as well. Like, ultimately, consistency, compliancy, that's what we got to see. We're following what we have in place. And the way we do things is, we got data, numbers that we're looking at, and we need to see that being inputted. Because obviously, if you want to be, if you want to bring your best, you got to measure that progress. So we're looking at things like sleep, digestion. We're tracking that daily. Steps, obviously, we put in all those other variables as well, and behaviors we put into to track if anything's going off plan. And when they're consistently tracked from experience, that's always been the best experience, right? Another thing I would say too is that what we want to see is there no underlying health concerns or interventions that need to be made. Sometimes there's been clients that want to do competition, but there's been like gut associated like issues, SIBO, even some parasites and stuff like that. We need to address that first. Any roadblocks need to be solved to get the best experience out, because going through prep, conditioning phases, and that is quite stressful, right, on the body. So we need to get rid of any stress that is excess, right? Especially, like I say, with gut issues and stuff like that. Solve that, and then that'll make it a better experience too. And that's just managing inflammation best we can. So consistency, compliancy, health is an important one as well. As having a good baseline, I'd say having a decent nutrition literacy too. Just like, and to break that down is like,
knowing your protein, carbs, fats.
Not like to a crazy detail, you know what I mean? But having some form of tracking that's been done before, whether it's like tracking on apps, calorie counting, macro counting, or portion control, as well is important, right? And also I've had clients that have had no gym strength training specific experience, and they do quite well, you know what I mean? Whereas some others needed to build up, you know, because their nervous system's young. Or fresh and needs to fire up a bit more and get the most out of strength training itself. So we need to see all of that. You know? But like you touched on, compliancy, consistency, like you said, with all those details is super important, right? 100%. Otherwise, like you said, it's frustrating.
It is.
Right? And then it's like, nope, we're cutting it. It's done. Don't worry about it. We're just not there. And then it doesn't align with what was said in that regional meeting.
Exactly.
And sometimes that happens, you know. Sometimes it's like you said, people don't know what to expect with prep, and the sacrifice of some things can be too much. You know. But those that do make it really successful is, like you said, a lifestyle. Like, it's a lifestyle, right? And then like you go into prep, you go in conditioning phases, building phases, recon phases, whatever, or maintenance phases. But ultimately, you've made it a lifestyle.
Yeah, you know? No, exactly. Like you wake up, you have the same, well, not the same, I can switch it up now, but pretty much the same kind of meal in the morning. And then you have your set time to train. And then you also have to have a set time when you need to go to bed. You need to make sure you get enough hours of sleep. And it's just that routine. And some people can't do that. Some people would rather like go out on the weekends, stay up late, party, drink. It's, you know, just managing that.
And that's it, making and everyone's different. Everyone has different values. But if you, at the end of the day, you do what makes you happy. You know, and if that lifestyle makes you more happier to do, that's fantastic. And the thing is, too, this is judged on your physique, right? It's not strength in the gym or anything like that. The game is judged on your physique. And if it's going to take time to build that physique to get a better outcome, that's something that needs to be done as well.
Chris is just telling us we have 20 minutes left. Okay.
Already 20 minutes.
Oh, really?
That's all right.
That's all right. If you guys are still here,
time?
I hope you're enjoying.
Okay, Dana's been talking for too long. There you go. I'll put it on there. So that's like very important to all manage, see the behaviors, the values that way, and pretty much take the identity of a competitor. Like that's what needs to happen. And it's, as it becomes more popular to what it was years ago, I feel, like you touched on, that isn't known or what needs to be done.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. It's all just the little details with everything. Even like what type of vegetables are you having? I remember we had a chat because I was having broccoli every single day, like with every single meal.
Yeah.
And, having too much of something obviously isn't good.
Should we tell the salt story?
Oh, no.
We'll tell the salt story.
Okay, before we tell the salt story, I have low blood pressure.
Which is amazing. I don't know how after this salt story. So, can't remember how it was it was first prep or second prep?
Second prep.
I knew it was one of the
second
first
prep
two.
was bad.
But the salt story is very funny. This is why I need my measuring everything and tracking everything. And this is off topic, but you'll get this amusing. So I just noticed one time, and this is why it's important to track all variables. I was curious. I think it was something to do with body weight was fluctuating a little bit. And we know from experience a lot. And I go, Dana, just take a video for me. And take a video of you. I very rarely ever had to ask clients this, ever. I think I've only asked it once. I said, take a video of you videoing yourself, because I could see bounce around of weight, putting salt on your meal for me. So Dana does that, like a good competitor does, sends me a video, and it went for like 1 minute. And what it was,
me
just
doing this for 1 minute.
Cramping on salt. Dana was just smashing this meal with salt for 1 minute. I'm not kidding. It literally was for 1 minute. I was thinking, when is it going to stop? And she had about, I can't remember, it was like 4 or 5 meals you had to do that to, right? Like there was a few, it wasn't just, So she was getting probably a year's worth of salt.
I would twist it one way, twist it the other, and I would count that as like, okay, that's one twist. And I would do 15 of those. I know. But I have low blood pressure.
Yeah, which I'm amazed with. I don't know how. It completely blows everything out. So that's important. You got to make sure that everything's on the same page and be on top of it as a coach.
As a coach and as a competitor. The next day, he changed the nutrition sheets and he made like another column, which puts how much salt you're meant to put in your food.
Switched everything up. And that's how we improve, right?
Yeah. I had a client actually one time. So she thought sweet potato and white potato counted, and pumpkin counted as vegetables.
Yes.
And I was wondering, like, why is your scale weight not coming down? So I asked her, okay, what type of vegetables are you having? Are you like, is your digestion okay? And then she goes, just pumpkin, sweet potato, white potato. And I just, in my head, as a coach, explosion.
Calories.
Explosion.
The hidden stuff.
Those are carbs.
Yeah, but that's it. That's why it's important to sit down and you learn from that stuff and you improve. And no one's ever perfect, but you want to be as best as you can, you know, and improve on things like that. That's how we improve our systems over the years. Yeah. But those little details are very important, you know. Now, look, for this episode, run through expectations. I mean, we can go into like conditioning phases and stuff. But I reckon we do that for different episodes, right? To be dead set honest, with the expectations of like a fat loss phase, building phase, recomp, when to do those things, time frame wise, and that as well, and also shaping the physique. But I think in the talk today, like we covered a lot of ground just as a foundation, which is one of the most important steps to basically set up. So just to reinstate what we were covering today is, as a competitor or someone looking at competing, it's important to know what you want out of the competition. It's important to know where you're at and where you want to go, right? And the steps that need to be done to help you get to where you want to be. So it's always an important discussion to have with your coach of what you want out of it. It's an important awareness for you to know the expectations on yourself and the experience itself, you know, and what needs to be done to be the best competitor you can be, right? Like I touched on, it's never comparing to anyone else. You've got to compare with the best standard that you can be as a competitor, you know. So is there anything else you want to finish off with, Dana?
Just with that last bit, not comparing yourself to anyone. Like I just want to say I love Ashley Cole-Wasser, and yes, I did want to be her when I was 11. But obviously, it comes to a point where you just have to realize and accept you know, you're not Ashley Cole-Wasser. You don't have her genetics. You don't have her like literal frame of everything. So you can't set the expectation. Okay, I want to look exactly like this girl. Your coach will obviously work with you to try and get that bikini look, which is that X frame. But it'll just be very different. Like, you can get someone that walks in, is very like small, like in their shoulders, but wide in hips. That would just be like building up that upper to get that balance. If you get someone, other way around, you can get a lot of different body types, and your coach will just work through that with you to get you to suit that class. Not to look like that person, not to look like that pro, but to suit that class.
Yeah, and there's different, like with your, we got to work with your shape, not anyone else's. And there's a difference, obviously, between comparing and inspiration. It's fantastic to get inspiration off others. And you can use that as fuel and stuff as well, which is important. But comparing can be a dangerous game if you play it that way. So I totally agree with everything. You got to work with what you've got and improve what you got. And look, that's going to come down to everything. Everyone with your posing may be different. The way you program may be different to suit your body and what you need as well to bring that package onto the stage.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's also like a huge mental game. I had one competitor who was obviously scrolling through Instagram, seeing all these bikini girls, and then she was feeling like down on herself, and her confidence just shot down. So, you can either look at these bikini girls and be like, oh, wow, like feel inspired, or you can look at these bikini girls and be like, oh, and feel down on yourself. There's kind of two different ways to look at that. And if you're someone that, will look at bikini girls and feel down on yourself, literally delete it.
Yeah.
Like, don't look at it. Like, why would you do that to yourself? But you can also shift that mindset.
Yeah.
It's a big
well, that comes down to what you want out. And, like, how good do you feel on the day when you get all your makeup, bikini, tanned, and you look fantastic? How good do you feel?
I feel like I can't describe it.
Yeah.
But whenever we talk, of anything of competition, of, like, show day, like, everyone says my face just lights up. Yeah. Because it's great. Like, even though I don't like wearing makeup. I don't like, they put on these fake lashes on me, and on the day I'm just, like, struggling to see. But it just, at that point, all the hard work is done. And then the fact that you get to showcase your work and your coach's work is just... Yeah, it's amazing to see the finishing product. Yeah. And some of the transformations are crazy to see. And that's it. You got to do it for yourself and be the best self that you can be. And sometimes I feel competitors may lose sight of that and dictate it on if I get a place or don't get a place. Yeah. And we always want to gun and be competitive as we can. That's 100% what we want to do. Be as competitive as you can, but once again, got to work with what you got to do that properly. Yeah, showing up on show day, knowing that you left no stone unturned, and doing, your absolute best day in, day out, you should already be happy and proud. Yeah, happy and proud. That's pretty good. And as coaches, we're competitive. Obviously, we're damn competitive. I experienced that. Yeah, it's damn competitive. Last season, actually, I was standing at the back, like, as a coach, having my first competitor. I'm standing with Mick. I'm just shitting myself. I'm like, are you going to throw up as well? Is it just me? I was just so nervous. I didn't understand it because you're quite composed. Well, now anyways. Well, it's experience over the years and having different competitors. I was going to throw up. Tana was nervous. It is just as nerve-wracking. But it's because you care as well. Yeah, it's of course. Because you put all the work in that as well, right? And you care for your competitor. 100%. Yeah, and as you go through more and more, you get... more experience in that through it too. And good at hiding your anxiety. Yeah. It's like, No, but it is, and you want the best always for your competitively too. Look, that's pretty much, like, I'm pretty happy with how today's gone. If you don't have anything else that you want to cover. No, I'm pretty happy. No, good. As well, so we're going to keep these up as well. So we're going to cover a lot more topics as we move forward too. But guys, like I said, this is a very important first step, I think, to discuss, and one that can either make or break the experience if it's not handled properly on both sides. Yeah. So thank you all for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. This is the first one myself and Dana, or Dana and myself, have sat down to discuss this stuff all on Comp Prep, which is exciting. I really enjoy this talk as well, because really that's where physique transformations happen as well, which I love.
and just seeing the end product is really a passion of mine as well. So if you guys want to keep up to date with us, or for any coaching inquiries, we have our website, www.mindperformancehealth.com.au. Yes, we help competitors, but not only competitors, but for those that want to get physique transformations, body composition improvements as well. So you can reach out to us on there. Subscribe to our channel too. Give us a like on our podcast, and we will speak to you all soon.